5 teachers are not returning next year. 2 of them are English, 3 of them are German teachers. And we are also considering an existing German teacher for the language coordinator position. So that means we're a shortage of 4 German teachers and 2 English teachers. Being that we're having, though, the 3-class model in 1st grade and 4th grade, that actually then takes away 2 German teacher spots. So we're really only 2 German teachers short and 2 English teachers. Of the 4 teaching positions to fill, we have filled 3 so far. 2 German teachers. 1 is an existing German teacher here in the U.S., and the other German teacher will be coming from Germany. The English teacher positions, we have 1 English teacher position filled and 1 in the final phases of interviewing, so we hope to wrap that up this week. And I'm really pleased to say of all the staffing, we have also filled the art position, full-time art position, and this person is also German, and so we'll be doing art in German this year, so I'm super excited about that. Physical education position has been filled, as well as our current Spanish teacher will be stepping up to the full-time Spanish position, and EL role, working with the self-testing. So I think we're in really good shape with our teaching staff. As you know, we have another administrator position that we'll be hiring for and interviewing, and my goal is to get everything wrapped up within the next few weeks. Okay. Next, I'd like to talk about our shared use agreement. I've been in negotiations with Ms. Machado. As part of the shared use agreement, we are entitled to space, the shared space. Not just the NPR, we are also, or the lunch area or the soccer field, running track and outdoor basketball, handball walls. We are also entitled to space in the band room, band music room, the computer lab, the parent center, and the library. We have currently not used those spaces because every year it's a bargaining tool, and I bargain an additional classroom and give those up. Since we're not getting an additional classroom, I've met with Ms. Machado and said we are wanting these spaces and we want to schedule them. She has not committed to allowing this schedule to go forward. She's very hesitant about our students using the computer room and the library and the parent room and so forth, but I'm pretty adamant that we want this. I'm hoping this can eventually be, again, a bargaining tool that she could possibly give up one room that I would not add a classroom. That room would be used as a parent center, as a place for our IB books, as a library for us, and all the things that we're missing, a teacher lounge, of space for the copier, space for a workroom for our teachers. So I plan to go visit her this week, because our goal is she will only be on campus for probably another week after this. So our goal is to get this wrapped up sooner than later. But I did lay out, what it comes down to is that we're entitled to a day and a half of the band room, a day and a half of the computer lab, a day and a half. There's other things that we have not used. So she's aware of it now, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Working on that. All right, our monthly diversity report that we are benchmarked to do for LAUSD. No change in demographic representation this month. A couple things that stand out as far under curriculum instruction. This was a month of testing. This is our May monthly diversity plan. We did have all of our state testing in May. And we had the school site council wrap up their single plan for student achievement. We also had recognition of Kathy Cheatham as our Eddie Teacher Award winner. And our own Elka Miller, founder of our school and past board president, was recognized in the Order of Merit from the German government. So we make sure that LAUSD sees that in mind. So those are some of the highlights moving forward. Enrollment updates looking really good. We have 55 currently signed up, and all enrollment packets complete for kindergarten. My goal is about 25, 26 per class, but we have to over-enroll because guaranteed, sometimes they don't show up. So I think I'll probably take it up to 60, and I know we won't get that many, but I'll feel comfortable when I hit that mark. We have not taken additional students in first or any of the other grades. We're keeping it consistent so that we're not in overload, especially in first and fourth. In first and fourth, because we'll have 3 classes, so we've frozen all enrollment. And I think a lot of the other things I touched upon in the LTAC and the budget. Is there any questions on the school year? Really flew by.
Sure did. Comments, questions?
Yes, Al.
It's an observation, it's not a question. Based on last week's meeting, and I don't want to go into any one parent's or subgroup of parents' experience with how the coordination between teachers, homework, etc. is allocated. I strongly urge you to really consider getting a consultant for the IT role and get somebody who can possibly be on staff and can do IT, can touch, I've seen other schools who do this, where that person is more of a multitasker. I have someone like that in my company. It's not an unusual role to find somebody that can do updates to the website very robustly, who can coordinate with teachers and how to post things on the web. In my kids' school could not function. They've been in business for several decades, and they're not that bigger than this school. Without their full-time IT people, that school could not function. So I think consultants, at the end of the day, don't represent value unless they bring a very, very specific skill. If they bring a general skill, I recommend you go for a full-time IT person that can help you leverage technology.
Right now, we just have a one day a week person.
Every time I've tried to interact with the school, with you or others in the school, the technology has really been a challenge.
It's a challenge from everything, to getting it finished, to bandwidth. We have all kinds of issues here, but I agree. Yeah.
That was it?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
great.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to survey results compilation and Erika.
Okay. So, I'm going to start with the parent surveys. So this year I was really excited. We had a lot of parents, nearly 200, complete the survey. I'm going to kind of give you just a little overview, and then if you have anything more clarification on, you can ask. In 2014, we had a net promoter score of 49. This year in 2015, our score decreased to 14, which means we went from a net promoter score of 49 to 14. This is significant and shows that there's a shift in perception of how likely parents are to recommend our school to others. Throughout the parent survey, satisfaction across nearly every question showed a decreasing trend within the parent community. GICS highest scores exist in the parent-teacher section, where over 70% of parents are satisfied with their children's academic achievement, and where parents report high marks for the parent-teacher and teacher-student relationship. Truly, the magic that happens in our classroom is one of GICS's strengths, and while these scores did decrease, they are still in the top percentage, and our teachers are doing a tremendous job, as 80% of parents feel that their children are happy in their classes, which I'm happy about. Right now, I'm moving on to the student surveys. Overall, the student analysis revealed lower student satisfaction at our school this year. These results are still highlighting our strengths. In 2015, 77.7% of students surveyed replied that they liked coming to school on all days or most days. While this was down from 87% of students who reported that they liked coming to school on all days or most days in 2014, it's still pretty high. In 2015, 63.8% of students reported that they felt safe on school grounds. The year prior, we had 85% of students reporting that they felt safe on school grounds. Another significant finding in the student survey was a lot of students talked about the cleanliness of the facility. As we look at the cockroach that was in here earlier, we can understand some significant difficulties we have on this campus. So basically 75.6% of students graded the school either at neutral, they didn't agree or disagree, or they disagreed that they felt that the school was clean. And in 2014, only 60% of students felt that way. So more students this year feel that the school is not clean. Make sense? Okay. Now we're moving on to staff surveys. We kept, the staff survey questions were identical from 2013, 2014, and 2015. Because of this, we were able to get data across 3 years. In 2015, 28% of staff respondents, I want to make a distinction that the staff respondents, we didn't get full participation. We had 22 staff completed the survey. I do not know what the distribution, because it's anonymous, I do not know how many of these staff members were single subject, how many were German teachers, English teachers, how many were PRLs, how many were instructional assistants.
How many do we have staff in total?
I think I know that. Probably close to 35, 36.
Yeah,
I'm just
told
estimating.
I was
About
told 36.
Yeah.
So that echoes what I was told. And this year we only had 22 staff members completed. We kept the survey open until last week,
Till the very last minute.
the very last minute, in order to get more participants, but unfortunately we didn't have 100% participation next year. That would be a huge goal for me. But in 2015, 28% of staff respondents reported that they feel the school is well run, and 41% feel that the school is not well run, with the remainder being neutral. There was an increase in satisfaction in our German program's effectiveness from 2014, and there was an increase in satisfaction with being a teacher at this school from last year. 18% of staff reported that they have the resources needed to be effective at their jobs. Like I said, I don't know if that's teachers or if it's other PRLs or other people feeling they have enough balls, I don't know. And 41% feel that they do not have the resources needed to be effective at their jobs. So the remainder, 40%, are neutral. Let's see what else. 86% of staff models our values as expressed in the Goethe Pledge, and 64% agree or strongly agree that they are generally satisfied with working at this school.
Where's the full document? Because it's not there. I wanted to talk about the NPS questions we asked the staff.
They're on
Yeah, I can't find it.
Oh, they're not in this one.
Yeah, I know.
They're in the document under,
Got, no.
no, they're not in that document, they're in the other document.
Okay, go on.
Okay. So now I'm summarizing everything. The overall trends in the survey suggest a current decreasing level of satisfaction within the organization. This year, ISEs likely increased as the organization faced many hurdles and obstacles. And that came out in the surveys and verbatim comments. Highlighted in the verbatim comments also included solutions and suggestions, as well as issues and problems that we need to address. And data from the full reports will be examined and thoroughly vetted in the upcoming months, with action plans enacted to strengthen the organization as a whole. And I've been working very closely with Gwenis in the last couple of months, and a lot of things that came out of the surveys have already been implemented in the budget and in considerations in a very thoughtful manner, and we've had lots of discussions. So I feel very confident that the information that came from all of the surveys is being enacted into a solution-oriented base so that there's some meaning to all this time we've spent doing these surveys.
So for going forward, just to piggyback on that, Gwenis and I talked about, and Erika, that there's sort of two kind of demands that we all make. One is, I want to see all the raw data, and the other is, I want to see an action plan to show how a response is going to be made. So to find the middle ground between those, it seemed like a good way to go, to provide Gwenis some time to come up with an action plan. And so she can do that over the next, let's pick a number of months. I think we said until August, but I don't know if that's enough time or if it's too much time. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that right now. But that at the point which you announce an action plan that we would at the same time make available the full report, the full results that they've compiled. So that was the plan going forward. And I don't know what sort of timeline you want.
Well, the goal would be great after the start of the school year. That's what I hope.
Yeah, what would work for you?
That would be mid-August.
Mid-August?
Start of the school.
Okay.
Something strikes me, you just said that several of the issues that came up that haven't been enumerated here have already been addressed in the budget. And I'm just wondering, should there just be a response, but not necessarily an action plan? I'm a little uncomfortable with setting a precedent of always having a detailed action plan in response to a survey. I just throw this out, that I think if what we're trying to do is create a culture of collaboration for the sake of always building a better school, I think the expectation would be feedback and response, not necessarily criticism and then action plan to meet the criticism. So I'm just kind of responding. Yes. So my hope would be that anytime we solicit feedback in any survey, that we might respond back to the constituencies that those concerns have been heard and are being responded to on an ongoing basis. And here are some of the steps that we're taking in this season, and we will continue as the school year develops. Anyway, something that's a little more ongoing rather than something that is just sort of narrow and kind of a confrontational thing. Say we're in this for the long haul, all of us.
And we've also talked about changing the surveys. Some background on some of this is that we need feedback more often.
And a little more specific
Ongoing.
feedback, I think, would help too.
No, we have enough specific feedback, we need less specific feedback. My suggestion would be to still run a relatively large survey, lose a few questions out of that one, and then run a half-year survey that is 6 questions.
We
So 6.
We used to run two.
So I don't think we want to get into that right now because
But
we're
I
just
wanna-
dealing with this one, but we have talked about that. And Erika and I have committed to getting into that.
Yeah.
So
Before you leave.
So
And
I'll still.
I want to encourage all board members to look at the detailed documents that go down to the analysis year over year based on each question. It is staggering what detail you will find there. We've also asked the NPS question to the teachers in the sense of recommending as a workplace and recommending as a place of education for the children of their friends, which are very important NPS staff questions, and we've seen a rapid decline in those as well.
Well,
So,
let's
again,
just,
I
I
would
mean,
think-
like, not to the defense of anybody, but, it has been a turbulent year. There's all kinds of, halo effects out there, and, people are being bombarded. It was exhausting this year.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying
I
that.
agree with
So
you,
we wanted to
but
avoid this
This.
conversation,
No.
okay, by allowing Gwenis time to
Right.
digest and respond.
but
Alex.
what I wanna say is that there's data out there and it's the duty of each board member to confront the data and not just live by the executive summary.
Yes.
Well,
I was
Okay,
asking,
alright,
we
well-
look at the data, but we need to do something about
Well,
it.
stop. I can see by the time on the clock and the voices that everyone's getting tired. So let's just try to move through this really
Quickly.
civilly and quickly. Alex has had his hand up.
a sobering survey result was that the school community thinks higher of the executive director than they do of the board.
Good point. On that note,
And hence, the performance of the school should not be, is not a direct correlation to just the performance of the leadership, the executive leadership of the school, Gwenis and her team. So this is why I'm encouraging that the board reflects over a much shorter period of time in terms of the adjustments that we need to make in how we are influencing the performance of the school, rather than dragging it out for 5 months. So if you're gonna put yourself in a mode of being the person that's gonna solve all the problems, there may be some problems which are not your problems to solve. So again, I encourage you to for many nonprofits, the executive director drives onboarding of board members. They act as holding the board very accountable for what they do or what they don't do. So I encourage you, Gwenis, to reflect on that in terms of how you hold us accountable.
okay, that
2015,
sums up our
2016.
survey results compilation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nicely done. Let's move on to review of action items from previous meetings.
That's me. There is nothing really to review. I haven't, since this is the end of the school year, I have the policies and procedures binder that I've been harping on since 12 months still, which I assume is not
The goal
finished.
that was not met by.
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
So, are we gonna set a new timeline for that action?
You know, it'd be great to have that by the, I mean, since we're off now, I don't know what do you think? What's a reasonable deadline?
Over the summer, I keep saying that, right? We actually have been working on it, it just isn't all gathered in one place. And I really need to focus on revising the parent handbook and the staff handbook. A lot of the policies are already in there, and I have to really focus on revisions based not just on our oversight visit, but also some new laws that are coming out about sick leave, about, there's all these new things coming out, so I really would like to just focus on handbooks first over the summer, and then start to put that, early fall into, one place.
How about we say oversight visit? Make that
Okay,
the
we
goal.
never know when that is, it
Right.
could be September, so it would have to be, but.
No time before
yeah.
January 1st or
Right,
oversight visit.
Right, good,
Okay.
good.
So
I like
January
that.
1st, and if it's later than January 1st, oversight visit date.
Okay, oversight visit 15, 16
Yeah.
is basically. I'm just going through some random things. We have touched on banking services to be moved. We wanted to see research on that. That obviously,
Conversation with the bank yesterday.
Well, I'm sorry, I know the content of what you're gonna say, and we don't need to get into it right now, it's ongoing, so let's put a
Yeah.
date of, August meeting, where you'll report on a recommendation for any changes, does that sound good? September?
Probably better. Yeah,
Okay.
Because I'm gone July, pretty much.
October?
September?
September is fine.
He said
Okay.
September.
September, then the
Because I'm
reminder.
trying to have that meeting prior.
This is for looking into changing our banking so that it's
Oh, okay.
cheaper and better and all that.
Yeah.
So we do baseline over the dates,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
The-
All right, September,
The SELPA is still ongoing, I guess?
no.
No?
Retired.
Retired. Good. Common core expenditure is retired. Parent survey, that's end of school year 15. Erika still, which is the redevelopment of the
Change the
survey.
date to,
We're gonna change the date.
we're not gonna
We're not gonna do it in
propose
the
a
next,
new
yeah.
survey in the next week.
No,
So let's give us until
September.
September?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it'll just be me, I guess.
I will help.
Okay, good. I'm gonna hold you to
You
that.
should.
Beginning of next school year, still the historical data on the silent auction revenue broken down. And end of 2015.
No, this is just for the gala. I was curious in knowing sort of just where money was raised well and where it wasn't, you know, getting into the detail just of the gala. And yeah,
With the internal fundraising, it was broken down.
I don't think it was year over year for each category, was it?
No, it
Year
wasn't.
over year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you-
Yeah,
That
and I
was-
thought that might be a good place
Okay.
for the new chairs to start, so they
Okay.
sort of know
Yeah.
where they should put their time,
Okay.
you know?
Okay.
Cool, what's next?
And I think that was it. And the review of the merit-based pay rates as we had discussed at end of 2015, so.
The-
Oh, moving forward for the following school year.
The review of a new
Yeah, so
review.
what's the deadline meaning, like?
End of 2015.
Oh, the calendar year, I'm
Of the
sorry, I thought you
calendar
meant
year.
the school year, okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, moving on. Resignation of John Mora from GICS Board of Trustees. I wrote a letter, you can all read it, but I just wanted to say, for the record, again, that has nothing to do with Goethe. It's very painful to leave the board, and that it all has to do with my own personal and professional life just being too much to be able to also handle being on the board, working in freelance work and entertainment. It's just impossible. So, thank you. This has been the most wonderful experience of my life, after being married and having kids.
Okay. So, not to steal your thunder, but on that note, I just want to announce my candidacy for board president for.
Interesting you should say that, because Board of Trustees officer discussion is next.
So I wanted to announce my candidacy for board president for the next meeting. You know, basically under the premise to continue what Judge Jahn has started. You know, completing John's work. Call it John's work. That's completing John's work and go through the strategic process. You know, focus on the educational program a little bit. Transforming the board to the next level. Overarching theme is preempting a little bit the strategic development, but develop the school further to a degree that I think it's an achievable goal to have a middle school within the next 24 months.
612.
612 within the next 24 months on a Prop 39 location. I think it's inconceivable to have that on a private facility, but let's shoot for 24 months opening of a middle school, or within 24 months for a middle school on a Prop 39, and with 5 years on a private facility. You know, I heard a couple of interesting things. I think I had a conversation with Gwenis. I think we can make that work. If I would be happy to facilitate a better work environment for Gwenis so that she can be more successful in her job. Overall, there's a couple of other things which are operational. I'm hoping to consult an advisor, a dear friend of mine, can just provide some historic perspective in it, and I'm not going to mention names. So that's, you know, that's the big plan.
I have a question. Are you then, do our bylaws allow for you to be treasurer and president at the same time? Would you
No.
therefore give up the treasurer?
I would give up the treasury, and I'm working on, as part of that transition, to really make sure that, you know, that we have more audit fund features in there, because I was very vested in it, and so I trusted myself, but I'm not saying that I don't trust anybody, but it would be prudent to have like more oversight layers in there.
No, this is going to be really healthy for all of that, because you've had it all in the back of your mind.
Right,
and
and
I've had
so-
so much just in the back of my mind, being on the board so long. I think this is going to be really good for
Yeah, so it's just like, just package it up a little bit more, hand it over, but
Yeah.
don't, and have more oversight in that, so that we can just really, at the end of the day, this is a public-private entity, and we need to have a very high degree of compliance and oversight, and we need to just make sure that that we always can check it.
Good, so I guess, unless anyone else wants to announce their candidacy, we've never done this before, we don't have a long history of successions, but we'll have an election at the July meeting for treasurer, secretary, and president, as well as for everyone else to renew the terms. And that's it. Anyone else have anything to say about
So we're
that?
gonna urge the trustees to go deep within themselves and to step forward as treasurer and secretary.
And maybe a candidate for board president.
Yeah, president, treasurer, and secretary. They'll be elected. All right, good.
So John has officially resigned as of today, will no
No,
longer.
as of July 12th. I'm going to stick around to
Okay.
help with the transition to the
Okay,
next one.
so you're gonna not, are you gonna be
Not-
there?
No, July 12th, so July 13th I will not be at the meeting, but I just thought
No,
I'd
we
be
just moved it until to the
10th.
11th.
11.
Now I'm the 10th.
So, what I was gonna say, John will not participating in the annual meeting or any special meeting that is
There's a
held on
special
that
meeting
day.
if we do that, but, no, you're right,
So
absolutely.
we're gonna hold an election on which I will preside as a secretary and then step off the board after that election, once the new parent rep and the new secretary is in place.
Great, sounds good. Thank you, sorry to cut you off, I was confused. Anything else on this item?
Anybody else?
Okay.
Treasurer, secretary, going once?
Well, you have a month. Okay, moving on to recognition of board members Jahn, Mora, and Katja.
So Mora,
Oh,
I need to read it.
Ah.
Mr. John Mora, Goethe International Charter School, proudly recognizes and thanks Mr. John Mora, whereas Mr. Mora was a founding parent of Goethe International Charter School, and whereas Mr. Mora volunteered his time and energy for more than 8 years to the founding and the governing of the school, and whereas his dedication, commitment, skill, and wisdom have positively impacted the lives of hundreds of GICS students, parents, faculty, and staff, and whereas Mr. Mora was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and whereas Mr. Mora holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in philosophy from Princeton University. Who would
you
know?
did your research.
Right. And whereas Mr. Mora enjoys a successful career as a writer and producer of documentary television programs, and whereas Mr. Mora is passionate about an education that offers an international perspective, and whereas Mr. Mora eloquently delivers the message of Goethe International Charter School, engaging in political outreach, and whereas Mr. Mora's strength in strategic governance, and whereas Mr. Mora served as a visionary for the founding effort of the school, and whereas Mr. Mora served as the second president of the Goethe International Charter Board of Trustees, now therefore be it resolved, and the Board of Trustees of Goethe's International Charter
As a writer, I have to say that was quite a run-on sentence. I need to do more run-on sentences because that was a good one. Thank you all so much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for everything you've done for the school. You've put all your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and we all appreciate it so much.
Thank you. You're here. Okay, so no, there's more because it said Jahn, Mora, and Katja.
So I have the pleasure of doing your proclamation. So Goethe International Charter School proudly recognizes and thanks Mrs. Katja Jahn. Whereas Mrs. Katja Jahn was involved in the development of Goethe International Charter School from its inception, and whereas Mrs. Jahn has volunteered her time and energy to the governing of the school, and whereas her dedication, commitment, skill, and wisdom have positively impacted the lives of hundreds of GICS students, parents, faculty and staff. And whereas Mrs. Jahn was born in Ingberg, right, on the Saar, Deutschland, before immigrating to the United States in 1999. And whereas Mrs. Jahn holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Tour Operator Marketing and Management from Heilbronn University. And whereas Mrs. Jahn enjoys a successful career as a senior product manager selling large-scale travel products in the United States and Europe. And whereas Mrs. Jahn sought a means to bring international, multilingual education to Los Angeles. And whereas Mrs. Jahn embraces new ideas and the dedication to putting students first. And whereas Mrs. Jahn ensures that the mission and core values of GICS are delivered to the parent community. And whereas Mrs. Jahn served as the foundation and visionary for the efforts of the school. And whereas Mrs. Jahn served ably as the parent representative and secretary of Goethe International Charter School Board of Trustees for the past 3.5 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Goethe International Charter School hereby recognizes and thanks Mrs. Katja Jahn for all that she has done to benefit the students and families of GICS this 8th of June 2015.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gwenis. I assume you're the mastermind. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Okay, so we will go into closed session and report out afterwards.